You've got threats coming out of Washington. American troops are on the move. Tehran is loading its missiles. And for a moment, it really feels like the whole world is holding its breath, just teetering on the edge of a massive conflict in the Middle East. I mean, that's literally the briefing President Trump was given. The plans were already drawn up, the options were sitting right there on the table, and a strike looked like it could happen any second. It was a situation that came incredibly, dangerously close to boiling over into all-out war. Right? With tensions that high, why did the most powerful military in the world hit the brakes? Why were nations all across the region, even allies, urging everyone to just step back? Let's dig into that, because the answer reveals this really complex web of power, vulnerability, and a cost that might just be too high for anyone to pay. Okay, so to really get why there's hesitation, we have to first wrap our heads around what would happen the moment after a strike. Because, this isn't a simple equation at all. Look, Iran put out a blunt warning. They basically said any aggression would be met with force, and not just against the US, but against any neighboring country that hosts American bases. The fear, and this was shared by a lot of Arab nations, was that this war wouldn't be short or contained or simple. No, it could spiral into a regional firestorm, fast. So what is it that makes Iran such a tough opponent, especially after all these years of sanctions? Well, it's not just about having a big army. It's about a very specific and, frankly, very effective military strategy. First off, just look at the sheer scale. We're talking about nearly 600,000 active troops, with another 200,000 in reserve. That makes Iran's conventional force one of the largest in the region. But believe me, their real strength goes way beyond just manpower. Iran's military power really rests on three main pillars that all work together to create this powerful deterrent. So let's break down each one. Now, the IRGC, you got to understand, this isn't just another part of the army. It's an elite ideological force, and its main job is to make sure the regime survives. They control huge parts of the economy, they run the missile programs, and, this is crucial, they coordinate Iran's allies all across the region. And this number right here, 2,000 kilometers, that's a huge deal. Why? Well, think about what that range represents. With ballistic missiles that can fly that far, Iran can put critical assets at risk. We're talking every U.S. base in the region, from Iraq to the Gulf, and allies like Israel, they are all squarely within striking distance. And it's not just about range, it's about the sheer variety and sophistication. Iran has one of the biggest missile arsenals in the region, and that includes hypersonic missiles that are incredibly difficult to stop. On top of that, they have thousands of those Shahed drones, which are cheap, deadly, and battle-tested. They're perfect for just overwhelming air defenses. So this combo of high-tech threats and low-cost swarms, it's a total nightmare for any defense system. And that brings us to Iran's final pillar, its network of proxy forces. Groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon or the Houthis in Yemen act as a massive force multiplier. They're armed and trained by the IRGC. And this creates the very real risk that any conflict with Iran could light up the entire Middle East, all at the same time. But for all its military muscle, Iran is fighting another war. And this is one it seems to be losing. This is the other side of the coin, and it's absolutely critical to understanding the regime's thinking. And this right here, this illustrates the central paradox of modern Iran. While its military has proven to be incredibly resilient, able to rebuild infrastructure and restock missiles pretty quickly, its economy is dangerously weak. And that internal fragility, that's the regime's greatest vulnerability. If you want to really feel the pressure, just look at the numbers. Inflation has soared to over 47%. And that's not just some abstract figure, right? That represents a daily struggle for ordinary people just trying to afford basic stuff like food. And the collapse of their currency, the Iranian rial, is even more staggering. At one point, it took nearly 1.5 million rial to equal a single US dollar. This has completely wiped out savings, it's destroyed purchasing power, and it's created this widespread fear that prices are just going to keep going up. Of course, this economic pain doesn't just stay on paper. It has spilled out onto the streets, sparking massive protests that have really shaken the country. For the regime in Tehran, this creates a dangerous second front. It forces them to fight for control, not just abroad, but right there at home. So, here we are. You've got these two opposing forces, a powerful, defiant military that can inflict huge damage, and this fragile, collapsing economy that's fueling dissent from within. This is the tightrope that both Iran and its adversaries are walking. This quote really captures Iran's public stance perfectly. It's a message of defiance, but it also hints at a potential willingness to talk. They're basically signaling that, hey, while we don't want a conflict, we are not going to be intimidated into submission. Ultimately, if the hesitation to attack, it isn't about whether the United States could defeat Iran's military. The real issue is the catastrophic and unpredictable price of that victory: a multi-front war, chaos in the global energy markets, a humanitarian crisis. The fallout would be immense and pretty much uncontrollable for everybody. And that brings us to the core dilemma. This isn't really a question of military capability anymore. It's about political will and calculating risk. In a region this volatile, one single miscalculation could set off a chain reaction where regret comes way too late. And for now, it seems that neither side is willing to pay that final, devastating price.